What happens when a friendly daytime TV interview goes so far off the rails that security has to be called? And what happens when America's beloved talk show host suddenly finds herself caught in the middle of a royal blow-up that no one saw coming? Today, we're diving headfirst into the shocking confrontation between Prince Harry and Kelly Clarkson encounter. So intense it left the live studio audience stunned and had producers scrambling behind the scenes. This is the untold story of how a simple, cheerful promo turned into a full-blown televised disaster. Don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment below. What do you think really sparked this explosion? The Kelly Clarkson Show was never supposed to be like this. Known for her genuine warmth and effortless charm, Kelly had built a reputation as one of the most comforting and down-to-earth hosts in all of daytime TV. She had a gift turning guarded celebrities into open books, creating moments that felt real and unforgettable. So, when Prince Harry's team reached out to promote his latest charitable work, no one expected fireworks, just another heartwarming talk about his advocacy for veterans and mental health. That morning, everything seemed perfectly normal. Prince Harry showed up with his usual security crew, greeting everyone with his usual charisma. Behind the scenes, Kelly was cheerful and prepped, ready with thoughtful questions about his work and his life in California. It was exactly the kind of friendly conversation the show was known for. "I'm really looking forward to this," Kelly told her producer during the final sound check. "He's always been so sincere in interviews. I think our viewers are going to love hearing what he's doing now." The interview started off just as everyone had hoped. Kelly welcomed him with warmth and ease, instantly setting a comfortable tone. "We're here with Prince Harry," she began. "And I have to say, every time I see you, you just seem more at home in your own skin. How are you feeling about everything you're building here in the States?" Harry relaxed into his chair, smiling. "Thank you for having me, Kelly. It's been an incredible journey. I'm excited to share the work we're doing with veterans. The response has truly been overwhelming." Kelly's eyes lit up. "That's what I love to hear," she said, full of genuine interest. "Tell us more about this initiative. I know it's something very personal to you." For the first 10 minutes, everything went perfectly. Prince Harry spoke with passion and purpose, sharing touching stories about the veterans he's worked with and the lives his programs have helped change. Kelly kept the questions flowing, clearly well-informed and engaged. It was shaping up to be one of those interviews that just clicked until Kelly pivoted. "I have to ask," she said carefully, "and I hope you don't mind. There's been so much talk lately about your relationship with your family back in the UK. I know our audience would really appreciate hearing your perspective. How you're finding balance between your new life and keeping those connections." Alive, Prince Harry's body language changed instantly. He straightened in his seat, his face tightening ever so slightly as a flicker of emotion crossed his features, captured perfectly by the cameras. "Kelly, I thought we were here to discuss the important work we're doing with veterans," he said, his voice colder now. "Not to revisit the gossip pages." Still composed, Kelly tried to recover, keeping things light. "Of course, and your work is absolutely amazing. I just thought, since you've been so candid about your journey, you might want to share how you manage it all. Our viewers really admire your honesty." "My authenticity?" he replied, a sharpness creeping into his tone. "Is that what we're calling it now? Look, I know what you're doing and I get it. But I'm here to talk about something meaningful, not to feed the media frenzy that's torn my family apart for decades." The room went dead silent. The same audience that had been clapping and laughing minutes ago now held their breath. In the control room, Kelly's producer felt his stomach twist. This wasn't what anyone had expected. Kelly leaned into her years of experience and tried to steady the moment. "Harry, I completely understand. I truly do. Let's go back to the Veterans Project. I know there are some stories that really moved you." But Harry wasn't ready to let it slide. "Do you, though?" he said, staring her down. "Do you really understand? Because from my side of the table, every single interview, every so-called conversation, always turns into the same thing: questions about my family, palace drama, scandal. I'm trying to do something that matters, and all anyone wants is the past The air in the studio was heavy. Kelly kept her smile, but those who knew her could see it, her knuckles whitening around her note cards, her eyes a touch more guarded. She'd handled tense interviews before, but this was different. "I hear you," she said quietly. "And I do respect your boundaries. But I also think people connect with your journey because it's about healing and growth. That's something deeply inspiring." Harry leaned forward, his voice lower but more intense. "Inspiring? Let me tell you what's inspiring." Kelly, the veteran who walked into our center last week and spoke about his PTSD for the first time in 3 years, that's inspiring. He didn't stop. The single mother who struggled to adjust after her deployment and finally found a support network, that's inspiring. That's the kind of story we should be talking about. Not royal feuds? Kelly nodded, eager to return. To safer ground, tell us about that veteran. What was that experience like for you? But the atmosphere had shifted. Something between them had cracked. Harry's frustration was no longer simmering, it was bubbling over. "You know what, Kelly? There's something bigger going on here," he said. "This whole setup, the celebrity interviews, the press tours, it's all just a machine designed to take something from you. You want pain, vulnerability, drama. But what if I'm not here to give you any of that?" Kelly's composure wavered ever so slightly. "Harry, I think you're misreading this. We're here to uplift your work, to shine a light on your mission. That's what our audience wants. Is it?" he shot back. His voice was rising now. The audience shifted in their seats, visibly uncomfortable. Or is this just about ratings, about clicks? About making sure people have something juicy to talk about at the water cooler tomorrow morning? In the control room, the producer was waving frantically, signaling Kelly to intervene. But it was too late. She was live, alone in front of a studio audience, facing a situation spinning completely out of control. She could feel the weight of every single gaze fixed on her. Years of hosting live TV had taught her how to think fast. But this wasn't a technical glitch or someone missing their cue. This was something deeper. A guest was pushing back against the very heart of the show. "Harry," she began, her voice calm but carrying a slight tremble only the sharpest ears would detect. "I believe we both want the same thing, to highlight meaningful work and help people. That's always been our goal with this show." Prince Harry leaned back, arms folded tightly, eyes locked on Kelly with such intensity that even the cameras felt like they were intruding. "Do we, though?" he asked. "Because I've done this for years. Sat in these chairs, answered these kinds of questions, played along. And yet, at the end of the day, it's not the real message that gets spread, it's the drama." "That's not fair," Kelly responded, her tone a little sharper now. "We've had countless guests who spoke about their passions and missions. Our viewers do care about the issues, they care about what you're doing. Then why bring up my family?" Harry snapped. "If it's really about the veterans, about the work, then why even mention them? Why does every conversation circle back to palace intrigue, drama, and relationships?" Silence fell across the studio. The audience, usually relaxed and entertained, now leaned in, captivated by the tension. This wasn't the cozy, feel-good vibe Kelly's show was known for. This was raw, real. Kelly steadied herself, taking a breath as her media instincts kicked in. "Because, Harry, like it or not, your personal journey gives your advocacy weight. People connect to your struggles. Your choices, your growth, it makes your message on mental health and veteran support more powerful, relatable." Harry's voice cracked ever so slightly. "Kelly, you don't get it. What I've gone through, my family's struggles, they aren't content? They're not stories for your ratings? They're real people, real pain, dissected and monetized every day." The producer's hand signals grew more frantic, but Kelly couldn't take her eyes off him. This was no longer just a difficult segment. It was something deeply personal. Years of bottled-up emotion were spilling out on live television. "I do understand," Kelly said softly. "But Harry, you've chosen to talk about this in public. You've, written books, done interviews. I'm not asking for anything new or private. Just your view on something you've already shared." Suddenly, Harry stood up, tugging at the mic wire clipped to his shirt. "That's the problem, Kelly. Just because I opened up once doesn't mean everything's fair game. Just because I shared something doesn't mean every interview gets to become therapy for public consumption. Sit down, Harry, Kelly said firmly, the calm host finally stepping into her authority. We can sort this out, can we? He said, still standing. Because I'm exhausted from being told what I should talk about. Tired of being handled so the segment flows better. My boundaries constantly being crossed for a few headline clicks. Now even the audience was visibly shaken. Some shifted in their seats, while others lifted their phones to record the viral moment unfolding before them. The mood in the room had flipped completely. Harry, please, Kelly said, rising to meet his energy. Let's breathe. We're both here because we care. Let's try to work through this together. Together? Harry let out a hollow laugh. Do you know how often I hear that? Let's collaborate. Let's make this work. But it's always on someone else's terms, isn't it? That's not true, Kelly shot back, frustration bubbling up. I've shown you nothing but respect. I gave you a platform to speak on issues that matter. I asked thoughtful questions. I tried to give you space to share your message. Your platform, Harry countered. Your stage, your format, your rules. And the second I try to set limits, say what I'm okay discussing, I'm difficult, suddenly I'm the problem. Kelly's producer stepped closer from the wings, probably debating a commercial break. But she sensed this moment was too real, too raw, to cut away from. You know what, Harry? Maybe you are being difficult, Kelly said, her tone sharp and unflinching. Maybe you're just used to things going your way. Maybe it's not the media's fault. Maybe it's you. A collective gasp echoed through the studio. Kelly blinked, almost surprised by her own words, but she didn't take them back. Harry stared her down, his expression shifting through disbelief, anger, and something unspoken. His voice dropped low. Excuse me? I said, maybe you're the problem, Kelly repeated, now standing her ground fully. Maybe you've spent so much time blaming the media that you can't recognize when someone's genuinely trying to help. Maybe you're so guarded, so focused on self-protection, that you've forgotten how to just talk how to connect. Harry's voice rose again. You want genuine? Fine, I'll give you genuine. I came here as a favor. I rearranged everything. I prepped notes on PTSD and suicide rates among veterans. I was ready to have a real conversation. But instead I get ambushed with questions about my family and then get accused of being difficult when I try to steer it back. Kelly moved closer, the heat of the moment written all over her face. Nobody ambushed you, Harry. I asked one question. One about how you balance your personal life with the work you're doing now. That's all. That wasn't an ambush, Prince Harry said, his voice trembling. That was just a normal human conversation, normal. But then his tone shifted, cracking with emotion. Kelly, nothing about my life is normal. Nothing about my family is normal. Nothing about having every single conversation, relationship, or private moment twisted into public speculation is normal. So no, he continued firmly, I don't want to talk about balance. I don't want to talk about family relationships. I want to talk about veterans who are dying by suicide at rates that should horrify every person watching this show. The atmosphere in the studio had become suffocating. Kelly's audience, more accustomed to cheerful banter and uplifting celebrity segments, suddenly found themselves witnessing something raw and intense. The air felt thick, heavy, almost electric with tension. Fine, Kelly said, her voice tightly controlled. Let's talk about veterans. But don't you dare stand there and lecture me on what matters when you can't even answer a basic question about your life. Don't turn me into the villain just because you're too fragile to have a real grown-up conversation. Prince Harry's face drained of color. Did you just call me fragile? If the shoe fits, Kelly snapped back, and in that instant something shifted. A line had been crossed, and both host and guest knew it. The word fragile hung in the air like a thunderclap. Prince Harry's face flushed, not just with anger, but something deeper. Something like hurt. The cameras caught everything, every twitch, every subtle shift in his expression as he absorbed her words. Fragile, he echoed, barely audible. You think I'm fragile, Kelly? Kelly instantly recognized her mistake, but her fury was too strong to rein it in. No, she shot back. I think you're someone who can't handle being pushed. I think you've been surrounded by so many people walking on eggshells that you've forgotten how to engage in a real conversation. A real conversation? Harry's voice rose, growing sharper. You want real? Let's have a real one. He stepped forward. Let's talk about how you built your brand on being the girl next door, relatable, grounded, in touch with everyday people. And now you're standing in your multi-million-dollar studio, telling me I'm the one who's out of touch? Kelly's eyes flared with indignation. Don't twist this around. I've earned everything I have. I've been honest with my audience. About my struggles, my failures, my healing. I don't hide behind royalty or handlers or perfectly written statements. Hide? Harry stepped even closer, his voice now loud enough to rattle. Several audience members flinched. You think I'm hiding? I've been more open about my mental health than almost any public figure. I've talked about therapy, medication, suicidal thoughts. I've shared family pain and personal loss. And you call that fragility? Yes, I do, Kelly fired back, matching his intensity. Because someone truly strong wouldn't unravel over one small question about family balance. Someone truly courageous wouldn't explode when asked something ordinary. The audience grew visibly uncomfortable. Some people started leaving their seats. Others raised their phones, recording. Kelly's producer frantically waved for her attention, but she didn't budge. She was locked in now. This had gone far past professionalism. A tantrum, Harry repeated, his voice filled with disbelief. Kelly, I came here to talk about veterans suffering from PTSD, people who are dying, people who need help. And you're calling my focus on that a tantrum? Kelly's voice dropped, but the sharp edge remained. No, I'm calling your refusal to answer one question a tantrum. Your need to control this entire conversation a tantrum. Your complete disregard for me, my show, and my audience a tantrum. Prince Harry stared at her, breathing hard. When he finally spoke, his tone was colder measured, calculated. You're right about one thing, he said. I do lack respect. I lack respect for people who pretend to care about real issues but are only chasing ratings. I lack respect for hosts who ambush their guests and then cry foul when they're challenged. And I have no respect for an industry that profits off human pain. Then why are you here? Kelly demanded. If you despise this so much, why did you agree to come on? Why sit in that chair if you think it's all so fake? Because I was foolish, Harry replied bitterly. I thought this might be different. I believed stupidly that this could be a space where the message mattered more than the drama, where the cause came before the controversy, Kelly laughed, but there was no joy in it. Oh, please, now you're disappointed in me? In my show? You've spent the last 20 minutes tearing down everything I stand for, and now you're playing the heartbroken idealist? You came here with your own script, and when I didn't follow it perfectly, you decided to burn the place down. My script? Harry repeated, incredulous. Kelly, my script was about veteran suicide prevention, mental health support, real people. Real problems. Your script was tabloid fodder, family drama, and cheap emotion. It was one question, Kelly snapped. I asked you one simple question about balance, how you're managing your personal life while rebuilding your future. And you acted like I asked for nuclear codes. Because that question, Harry's voice now booming, represents everything that's broken in this industry. It proves that the work isn't enough. It has to be about me. My family, my private life, the veterans I'm trying to help. They become a footnote in the soap opera you're trying to create. Kelly stepped up, now face-to-face with him, voice rising with fury. You want to talk about what's broken in this industry? Try entitled guests who come on someone else's platform and think they get to set the rules. People who think they're too good for ordinary questions. People who mask arrogance as integrity. Entitled? Prince Harry nearly shouted. His mic wasn't needed anymore. The entire room could hear every word. Kelly, I've sacrificed everything, Harry began, his voice tight with frustration. I walked away from my family, my homeland, and the identity I grew up with all to try and build something that matters. And now, you're calling me entitled because I won't turn my private life into content for your show? Yes, I am, Kelly replied without hesitation. I'm calling you entitled because you think you can dictate what's off limits in an interview. You believe your causes are above having a real, open conversation with the people who genuinely want to support you. Without another word, Prince Harry yanked off his microphone and hurled it to the floor. You know what, Kelly? I'm done. Done with this talk, done with this show, and done with people like you who think it's their right to dissect every part of someone's life for the sake of a headline. People like me? Kelly's voice dropped dangerously low. What exactly do you mean by that, Harry? I mean, people who build their careers on other people's trauma, he said, his face etched with disgust. People who act like they care about big issues but really just care about the ratings and how many clips go viral. People who think hosting a talk show gives them access to every corner of someone's soul. Kelly stood motionless for a beat, trembling with anger. When she finally spoke, her words were ice. Get out. What? Harry blinked. I said get out, she repeated, louder now. Leave my studio, leave my show, leave my space. Then she turned sharply toward the audience. And the cameras. Ladies and gentlemen, this interview is officially over. Security, please escort our guest from the building. Prince Harry looked stunned. You're actually kicking me out? I'm removing you from my show, Kelly said flatly. You've been disrespectful, combative, and completely inappropriate. This is my studio, my rules, my decision. 2 security guards started making their way toward the stage. Harry looked out at the stunned audience, many of whom had their phones out recording. The cameras hadn't stopped rolling. Kelly stood her ground, arms crossed, eyes locked on him. This is unreal, Harry muttered. But his earlier fire was gone. Absolutely unreal. What's unreal is the way you acted today, Kelly shot back. What's unreal is that you came here and thought it was okay to treat me like that. And what's truly unbelievable is that you think you're the one who's been wronged. As the security team neared, Harry held up both hands. Don't touch me. I'll go, he looked at Kelly one last time. You're right about one thing. I am disappointed in you. Disappointed in this industry. And disappointed in myself for believing it could be any different. Then he turned toward the exit, his personal security swiftly falling in behind. The audience sat frozen, not sure whether to clap, gasp, or stay silent. Kelly remained at center stage, her breathing shaky, her expression flickering between fury, disbelief, and maybe even a trace of regret. As Harry neared the studio doors, he turned back one final time. For what it's worth, Kelly, the veterans I work with, they're not fragile. They're the strongest people I've ever met. They just needed someone to hear them without trying to make a show out of their pain. And with that, he was gone. Kelly stood there, the weight of everything that had just happened sinking heavily into the room. The cameras still rolled. The audience barely moved. The atmosphere was electric, uneasy, and unforgettable. Looking out over the stunned faces, Kelly turned slowly toward the lens. Her voice was barely steady. We'll be right back after this break. But as the feed cut to black, everyone knew. One thing for sure, things would never be quite the same again. So, what do you think really pushed this moment off the edge? Was it Kelly's personal question about family, or was something much deeper at play? Let us know your take in the comments. Subscribe for more and share your thoughts. What was the real breaking point that turned a simple interview into headline-making chaos?